This keyboard is so bouncy that it's borderline inappropriate. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Scott K. Today we're going to be looking at Drop's latest entry into the custom mechanical space. Wait, you're probably saying Drop already has mechanical keyboards. The Alt, the Ctrl, the Shift, the Enter. So then what's next? Let me introduce to you the new Drop Backspace. Actually no, this is called a Sense75. So this is Drop's first entry into a gasket mounted keyboard, and it's also their first 75%. Is it perfect? Well, no. But they gave me a quick look to take a look and share what I think, and also in return, I will also show you what I would do to improve this keyboard. So let's get started. So this is a very early prototype sample, which means it doesn't have all the final packaging either, so we're gonna skip over this portion. Looking at the keyboard itself, it's a very reminiscent of many popular 75% boards out there. This one kind of looks like an amalgamation of GMMK Pro and the Keychron Q1 kind of put together. I think it gives a little bit more GMMK Pro vibes here. Similar to those offerings, the Sense75 is supposed to be a premium, aluminum, gasket mounted 75% with a knob, and it comes with a few different options. First of all, the color, the black or the white. Then either as a bare bones kit or as a complete built product with switches and keycaps. Pricing for the Sense75 will depend which direction you go. A bare bones kit in black will be $249, while a fully built version will be $349. The E-white versions will cost $50 more than the black. It's definitely not a cheap board, but Drop claims it has better manufacturing and materials versus its competition, so is it worth it for you? That's for you to decide. Overall, the design is minimal with some clean lines and some cool RGB effects. Check this out. I really like how the perky RGB works together with the lower flood RGB lights in rhythm. However, I do wish they hit the light diffusers a little bit better and made it a little bit more subtle in design, because when you flip the case over, the diffusers are pretty prominent. I do like the center weight design though, but with the diffuser being kind of all over the place, the lower case is a bit busy looking. So this is where the Sense75 is pretty interesting, the gasket mounting. So instead of the standard pour-on gasket foam, Drop is using an interesting elastopolymer called Bisco. It's not a cracker, it's a kind of a foam. So this polymer is actually very bouncy. So overall it creates a firmer yet livelier typing experience versus standard pour-on gasket mounted boards. And as you can see, it does have space as well to allow for this to kind of deflect up and down vertically quite a bit. Now with the overall design out of the way, let's take a listen to how this thing sounds. The fully assembled version that I have came with Drop's own DCX caps, which I believe is great by the way, as well as the new Holy Panda X tactile switches. So what did you think about that? Overall, in my opinion, the stock typing experience, I felt a little bit underwhelmed. I noticed quite a bit of metal pinging, also the overall keyboard just sounded a little bit hollow and on the thin side. In my opinion, there's a lot going on with this, and there are some solutions to make this much better as well, which I will show you later. Then let's go into the details of this board, shall we? So when you undo the screws below, you can see that the Sense75 has an interesting structure. There's a lot going on in the lower case, as I mentioned before. The lower case is made of aluminum with an aluminum weight right in the center. Then you have the plastic support perimeter. So instead of like the gasket sitting directly on the metal, the Sense uses a light diffuser as a support structure as well. So it's like metal plate on the plastic. It creates a buffer between the plate and the lower metal case. Perhaps this is the reason why, but the lower case is actually pretty solid and there's no pinging or any odd noises. Now you move on to the components. First of all, my version came with the CNC aluminum plate. It's a nice blue color. I feel the overall finishing is pretty good. It does have some cuts in it, but they're very minor and I don't believe these cuts add to any of the flex. However, it's not really needed. So this is where you see some of this Bisco Elasto polymer gasket in its glory. It's a light gray color and I can tell you, it's a very bouncy type of material. Firmer and springier for sure than pour-on. Now the PCB is pretty standard in both appearance as well as thickness. It's south-facing with perky RGB with some RGB on the edges as well for that light diffuser. This is big since the other drop boards like the Ctrl Alt, they are actually north-facing, so that's been an issue for a lot of people, but now this is south-facing. As with most boards these days, you see the KO hot swap sockets below, and as with most boards as well, the knob is actually soldered on. The PCB is also QMK programmable and does come with some phantom clip-in stubs, as Drop calls them, and they're just okay. Finally, the foam. The Sense75 does come with the plate dampening foam, which is more of an open EVA material. It also comes with an under PCB foam, which is actually like this very paper-like thin, very thin, and I'm not sure what this actually really adds to this, honestly. Then there is also this fairly thin lower case foam, which is made of a stiffer material. So I feel for a case like this open, that I felt like Drop should have used a little bit different type of foam to help the sound. The stuff in here is pretty thin and stiff. Okay, so let's dissect why the Sense75 sounds the way it does. First of all, what I noticed immediately was the pinging. The Sense75 has the exact same issue as the first gen Keychron Q1. The uppercase pings like a tuning fork. Check this out. Luckily, I wasted hours trying to figure out the Q1 before, so it was a much easier fix for this. The force break mod. A few layers of small masking tape where the upper and the lower makes contact. This will eliminate the force transfer into the ringy upper case and definitely reduce that noise you're hearing. Now let's fix the hollowness. So in my opinion, the foam that Drop provided is a little too thin and stiff. While this may reduce some of the sound wave reflection inside, it's not enough for this board. So for my sample, I decided to remove it all and just go with the classic polyfill. What I like about polyfill is that it helps to remove some of the hollow sound from the boards, but it's also very light and airy, so it preserves the bounce of the board very well. So let's see the impact of that later. Finally, let's fix the sound characteristics of this board. I would actually recommend using some tape on this PCB. The keyboard has a tendency to be a little thin sounding, so 2 layers of blue masking tape really does help this board out a lot. It doesn't make the board sound like a marble like the PE foam does, but it definitely ramps up the sound a bit. However, the PCB does have a lot of ESD foam and screw holes all over the place, so make sure you tape around that. And to top it all off, I pulled out the Holy Panda X switches. Compared to the original, the HP X is smoother and feels nicer. However, the sound is not that long pull bottom out of the original Holy Panda that I like and a lot of people like. So instead, I used some KBDFANS long stem linear switch made by Texi. I don't think these are named yet, but this thing is actually pretty interesting with this UPE. It's kind of like UHMWPE, and also the HPE top housing, which is also like UHMWPE. The combination of the long stem and the deeper sounding materials makes this a pretty thocky boy. So I think it'll sound good with the Sense75. Plus it's nice and smooth as well. So I also clipped the stabs and lubed the stabs since they kind of came really dry from the factory. So I put everything back together now and took it for a test drive. So let's see how much this keyboard has transformed. So what do you think about it now? In my opinion, it sounds loads better. The Bisco provides that nice pop of sound with its bouncy nature, and while it doesn't feel like a spring-mounted keyboard, it's a very comfortable keyboard to type on. The sound is very nice and poppy, and the modifications I did to it really helped to eliminate some of that unwanted pinging, as well as that odd hollowness it was exhibiting before. So given all this, what is my final thought? Well, in my opinion, the Sense75 is on an ultra custom, build it from the ground up kind of keyboard. For that, there are a lot of group buy boards out there that'll deliver much more in this space. What the Sense75 is, it's for those that want a nice typing experience but do not want to worry too much about the details of the custom keyboard. It can be had fully built with great DCX keycaps and Holy Panda X switches. While it does innovate a little bit with the Bisco polymer gaskets and the lower floodlights, they look pretty cool. But at the same time, it's another pre-built 75% keyboard in the market that is kind of full of them. Case in point are the Keycrown Q1 and the GMMK Pro, and there's I'm sure more out there. However, the Sense75 does deliver a more lively typing experience, and the mods do help it sound good as well, much more so than something like the GMMK Pro. I would strongly recommend the mods, honestly. Or drop, maybe you could do it from the factory. I do feel that the pricing can be a little bit more aggressive. If it was right in line with, let's say, like the GMMK Pro or the Keycrown Q1 as the bare bones, I would say that the Sense would be a great option for a no wait, get it tomorrow kind of board. But hey, that's for drop to the side and not me, so. But at least I hope my mods could help those out that do decide to check one of these out. It really does improve it, so please check it out. And if you do buy a Sense75, I would strongly recommend doing some of the mods because the foundation's good, so let's try to make it as best as possible, right? As usual, if you liked the video, please like and subscribe, and I'll have more content for you in the future. Thanks.